Grand Rising, everyone. Hope you enjoyed your Saturday. It's Sunday morning, June 14th, 11:03 a.m. Let us see if we have any questions. I thought we had a beautiful discussion yesterday. We talked about blackness. Uh, of course, it's not something that can be defined, but looking at it as a purpose and also as a not being a coincidence that we are in this country and that we are called black and everything comes from black and we talked about AI and the attempt to make that spiritual. Also, uh, that being a means of controlling not only America but the world. Uh, we talked about balance, looking at balance and the importance of that, and just a great discussion. We ended up at the end talking about being fruitful and multiply, which I hope to maybe look at again at some point. But any questions at all about what we discussed on yesterday? And if you can think of something that I may not have mentioned, please feel free. Okay, do you have any questions of any kind, questions or comments about anything else that may seem important to you? Okay, well,
Yes, good morning,
Pastor,
Ron. This is Jackie, real quick. And this may have already been addressed, but I'm not sure.
that's okay.
Just wanted to kind of discuss when people are just talking about the 250th birthday of America, how they're patriots, they're being patriotic. Um, can you give some insight as to what, because I don't talk about stuff like that, but what's a good response or I don't know. Help me out with that one, please.
Okay, it's a good
Thank
question,
you.
Jackie. Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say thank you.
Yes, ma'am. I think it's a good question because I've heard several things planned this year for the 4th of July. They're going to make a big deal about it. But anybody, uh, what are you hearing about the 250th and how do you feel about that?
This is for Mel. Um, there's a lot of discussion among non-melanated individuals at work.
Hmm.
For me, it's an irritation. And I think because I just perceive it as such a lie after understanding who we are. So I just don't I don't want to feel inclusive and I don't feel inclusive. So for me, I just say, it's not my interest, and I just leave it at that. That's kind of where I'm at with it.
Yeah, thank you. I think a lot of people feel that way.
I
Eh,
feel the same way as Benel do because hope I pronounce her name right because none of that history concerned us. We were not we was there, but it don't concern us.
Yeah, you're right, Charles. Anyone else? I was watching a one of those news magazines this morning, and they were talking about a time capsule, and they were putting together a time capsule, and they're getting some feedback and memorabilia not only from individual people, but they wanted something representing every state, the history of that state, or something about. But all the stuff that they collected that they thought was important, there was nothing about us. I did not, unless they just did not report it, I did not see where anything had to do with the real history of this country or talk about some of the things that, went on as far as the indigenous people or another way of just, I mean, not saying Indians, but or us and our role in this, none of that was seemed to have been included. So this time capsule is supposed to be opened in another 250 years. And I'm just wondering, what will the people who open that time capsule see and thinking about what America, will they really see a picture of America when they open that time capsule? But anyone else on Jackie's question? Pastor, are you muted?
I said, like my liquor said, not my monkey, not my circus.
Okay.
Um, I have no interest in it. As far as the 250 years go, keep in mind that we were enslaved 150 years before the country was established as a country.
Hmm.
At least 150, if not more. So that in itself excludes me from this 250-year celebration. Also, um, patriotism is another word for white supremacy. You're not a patriot if you don't believe in this country, the principles of this country. The other part is, why should I celebrate, or even why should I reference something called the Founding Fathers when they enslaved me? I have no interest in the 4th of July. I have no interest in celebrating 250 years of misery for the world, but especially for us as a people.
Yeah.
I have no interest in doing that at all. If you want to read something regarding that, find Google Frederick Douglass and what is the 4th of July to us. And I referenced this before, and I want to repeat it now. In upstate New York, well, New York actually ended slavery in the late 1700s. And when the enslaved people who were freed celebrated it on the 4th of July as their independence from enslavement, they were murdered. They were attacked by white mobs who beat them to death with clubs and shot them with guns and hacked them to death. So, to me, for me to celebrate the 4th of July would be a celebration of what they did to us. It would be and this is just what I am saying about me. I refuse to be complicit in all of the tragedies, all of the barbaric acts that took place to establish this country, that took place to make this the richest country on earth, that took place to keep us in our place. Also, I refuse to embrace Christianity for the same reason. And in celebrating the 4th of July, you're also going to see quite a fanfare about the 4th of July in churches because of the 250th anniversary of Hail. I'm done.
Okay. Thank you, Pastor.
Thank you.
Jackie, any final thoughts?
No, I'm good. Thank you. Thank you for all your comments. That just helps me understand it better. Thank you.
Thank you for the question.
The other thing, Ron, in regards to that also is you're going to see a huge military presence, and the military presence is a reminder to the world of how the world was colonized and how people are kept in check, and a reminder of how America does what it chooses. For example, America bombed parts of Nigeria because it wanted to, and because people were rebelling against those colonizers who were attempting to continue their control of the oil and the the pushback that this Nigerian man got when he built a refinery in Nigeria. So I'm looking for, I have searched for, and have never found any redeeming qualities in this country. So,
Yeah.
and we are, even though we have not been designated by the United Nations, which is actually an international arm of white supremacy, the United Nations itself.
Yeah.
Even though we have not been recognized by them, we are indeed a plebiscite. And
United Nations, NATO, all of that.
uh,
NATO, all of that.
we are a plebiscite. We are a nation living in a country. And the attempted destruction of this nation was integration. And when we were forced to assimilate, um, the instructors in our schools were eliminated, terminated. So we don't have a foundational reason to justify supporting something that has been so damnable to us. Right now, if you think about when we grew up, communities took care of each other. You know, neighbor got sick, we washed their clothes, cooked for them until they were on their feet again, fed everybody in the house, that kind of thing. After assimilation/integration, that began to come to a halt. And community was no longer community. It was simply, what was it? It was simply a section in a city or a town where we lived, because the communities were actually destroyed through assimilation. So I don't see a reason for our celebrating that. And if there are questions or comments, fine. But I also want to include something else in this in a moment that's probably going to carry us in a different direction. So, are there questions or comments about this? About Jack's question? Okay.
But maybe we talked about redeeming qualities. Maybe we are the redemption.
Oh, we are. No question. We are redemption for humanity as opposed to simply being redemption for America. I don't believe that there is any redemption for America alone.
Right.
So it's for humanity. I don't think it's any question about a philosophy of hate governing this country. I don't think it's any question about that. If so, please raise them. So to me, it becomes, what is hate? In our house, the word hate was not used. It was frowned upon. It was forbidden. You just didn't do it. Because I remember distinctively, hate has no home. Or I hate them because they hate me. You can't be like them. Hate will destroy you. And there is a difference between I don't particularly care for you, I don't like you, and hate. Hate is an energy force of destruction of anybody who is directed towards, or anything that is directed towards. Hate is one of the most destructive energies in this earth. And we throw that word around loosely, but it does not change the meaning of it, neither does it change the impact of it. So when we use that word hate, we are using a type of energy that is antithetical to love and kindness. And we give life to its existence, or its continued existence, maybe I should say. So when we look at these 250 years that they're talking about, when we look at the enslavement of us in this country, and please understand, 1619 is a date that's used, but in 1521, that was the first time that enslaved descendants of Cabelon were brought to this country. And they were brought up the PD River in South Carolina by the Spanish. And they overthrew the Spanish. And no one knows what happened to them. They did not leave the country, but the Spanish enslavers did. So for as long as we've been here, it's been predicated on hatred towards us. And that hatred towards us has we have been able to see what hate does by virtue of seeing the barbaric acts that were perpetrated against us. How can you say that you are a human being and you are able to take leather and twist piano wire in it and beat someone, give them 200 lashes, pulling their flesh from their body, and then on top of that, putting salt in the wound and boiling water with a red pepper in it and pouring it on the wounds, and slowly roasting someone over fire after having cut their genitals out and cooked them. How can you say that you are human and you are able to do that? So we see the depths of what hatred can do. We see the depths of the results of hatred perpetrated towards us. And as long as we have been in contact with Europeans, this hatred has not only persisted, but it has grown deeper and deeper. And as a result of it, we have suffered many acts of many barbaric actions at the hands of those who hate us. Now here we are. We are in a position where we are beginning to understand that we are the creators. We are the divine entities in this earth, in this natural world. And being so, we cannot be perpetrators or harborers of hate. We have to be who we were created to be. And to hate what you created is to hate yourself. To seek love and kindness for what you created so that it can be transitioned to a place of divine actions, so it could be transformed by the renewing of our mind. What does that mean? Be transformed by the principles of Mayat. So we begun to teach them to think differently. This this understanding of who we are says to us very loud, you cannot be who you say you are if you harbor hate. Any questions or comments about that? Would you make sure your phones are muted? Was someone about to say something? Jen, would you make sure your phone is muted? Any questions or comments?
Hey,
Or-
Pastor, this is Charles.
Okay, Charles.
I see why white people don't want to talk about it. I see why they want to keep it all hid and covered up. Because it's like you said, it's just barbaric for the things they did. I mean, it seems unconceivable for a human being can be that way.
You're right. And this is the thing about it that gets me also. It's not hidden because they're ashamed of it. It's hidden because they don't want us to know who we are. That's totally different than being regretful for what you did or what you're part of or what you benefit from. Because there is no such thing as they benefited from it and the benefit is over with. No. The benefits are still present. But anyway, that's how I see 250-year celebration in conjunction with the hatred that goes along with that. And Donald Trump is not an anomaly. Donald Trump is the epitome, the essence of what America is. Questions, comments?
Yeah, Divine Rising family. Pastor, I wanted to just mention when the question was brought up in terms of how do we look at the 4th of July or how do we see it? I believe that's important that we appreciate our birthright to celebrate. And so on the 4th of July, or even right now, that's just something I see very significant in terms of us being able to appreciate that it's our birthright to know the truth, to know ourselves. And so as we, continue to look at these holidays or we look at what society is, putting out there in terms of, what we should be aware of. But I think that it's important, for us to look at our foundation and be able to appreciate that we've been aware of the importance of the Cabellonian mindset, the essence of Cabellonians. And so I think to be able to appreciate celebrating that is something that, we do, or I would just suggest that we look at every day. And so I'm just grateful, for the conversation. In the session yesterday, I had a chance to go back and review it and look at it. And I think as Ron say, when we talk about our history or we talk about Blackness, is just again spiritually and insightful. That again, we're having this conversation such as a time as this, because again, what's put out there in the macro with regards to the media, but I think that we should not neglect our birthright to know the truth and not to know ourselves. So I just wanted to share that thought as you were speaking about the time we're in. I'm done.
Thank you. Questions or comments?
I have a question.
Go right ahead.
Grand Rising family. So we're to celebrate. I know every day is to be celebrated. So Juneteenth is coming up next weekend. Is that not the day? If we're going to do anything, we should set aside for the purpose of celebrating, because they're trying to erase, well, trying to take that holiday away. Some states have, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know. Don't quote me on that, but yeah, that's my question.
Juneteenth is a day of celebration for us, a day of recognition, a day of remembrance, because of what happened in Galveston, Texas, in terms of the announcement.
Yeah.
We celebrate that, yes. And we also are very mindful that slavery was in force, slavery was still existing in up until 1962. But we have chosen this particular time to celebrate our freedom, which is really a misnomer. Celebrate the removal of chains, the physical chains from us. We chosen that day to celebrate, and I embrace and endorse it with everything in me because of the magnitude of the celebration. The celebration does not simply focus on that one event, even though that one event is the thing that brought it into existence or the reason for the celebration. It encompasses the whole of who we are, as much as some people know it. And to the extent that we understand it, it definitely speaks to our origins, as opposed to looking at enslavement as being our origin. So, Evelyn, I do believe that that is a celebratory time. And there have been those of us who have celebrated Juneteenth for years without the embracing of it by the white community. I know it was last year in Greenville when they put up the bunnies along the streets for Juneteenth. They had white people pictures, and it was such an uproar until they had to take them down. So what was that? What is that saying? That was an attempt to usurp the meaning or to weaken the meaning of Juneteenth and to make it what they wanted it to be. No different than when the discussion about a movie being made about Harriet Tubman, they were going to use a white lady as Harriet Tubman. And the uproar ended that also. So why do I mention all of this? Because all of the things that I mentioned and more, much, much more, are encapsulated in the Juneteenth celebration. Does that help you, Evelyn?
It does. Pastor, didn't we used to have Juneteenth ball? Remember we would meet up in the upstate?
Yeah, we did. Yeah,
yeah.
We had a Juneteenth ball here at the house, with the dance floor, tent, live band, caterer, etc. So yeah, we used to do in the past. Now what happens is the different cities do it, and matter of fact, there's a huge celebration in the works for Union itself. But pretty much everywhere we live now, there is some type of Juneteenth celebration. That was something back in the day that you did not see in the South, period. Southern states would not allow that, period. And people in the Southern states were afraid to actually make an effort to do that because of the violence that it invited. I'm done with that. Well, I'm done unless there are questions or comments. No questions, no comments. Then let's look at something. There are a couple of things I want to make you aware of. One, yesterday, as Ron said, we talked about AI and we talked about the dangers of it. And then we also mentioned during the course of that the IPO that that Elon Musk had NASDAQ to offer to the public. Well, what has come of that? Since that would have been done, the NASDAQ fast-tracked it because if the IPO is offered and is listed in one of the indexes, whether it's S&P or NASDAQ or whatever, NASDAQ fast-tracked it, and NASDAQ made sure that they placed it in their index because the institutional investors, the 401k investors, the pretty much all forms of investing has to include that in their portfolio. Now, S&P index refused to offer it or to even participate because the $1.7 trillion that Elon said it was valued at was a lie. The max value of the offer, excuse me, is said to be $780 billion, and that's max. Plus, the due diligence on the offer had not been completed by the indexes, but NASDAQ did it anyway. So some people are raising the question, wonder who paid them. And I say that to you because we talked about how these data centers would be ineffective in what they're trying to do. And this begins with people who are in the forefront of these data centers being rejected by the public and being exposed for who they are. And Elon is definitely one of those people. So the expectation is that within the next 6 months, we are going to see a huge loss because of this offering, and people should get out as quickly as they can. Now, this is the expectation that the downside of that is going to crash the economy, just like the tech bubble did when it exploded or when it went bankrupt in the 80s. So I say all that to you so you will be aware that the ancestors are indeed working to expose what's going on and to mitigate the excessiveness with which these self-appointed gods are making an effort to enslave or to have that everyone become their subjects, their worshipers. In addition to that, after we got off yesterday, I was talking with Ron, and he made a statement that about the data centers seeking to replace or seeking to create their own Akashic consciousness. And that landed hard with me. But at the same time, it made sense to me. It showed me the reality, a reality rather, that I had not factored into our discussion yesterday. The gathering of all the data that we had talked about speaks very much to this desire, especially what Don added to the conversation when he talked about the desire to have people, to pay people to talk to AI for 40 hours a week. Really in an effort to make it appear more human and to process, find out how we process so that it can adjust itself to human processing and become like a human. And these things are being done, and there's much more being done behind the scene. But this is something that's out front that we are faced with now. And that's one of the reasons we felt that it was necessary, matter of fact, imperative, that we make you aware of. So are there any questions about this or additions to what has been said in regards to that?
Pastor, this is Charles again.
Mm-hmm.
That computer that I talked about yesterday, the one they had made is it's a quantum computer.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you think they were married? That computer is about like a woman because it's so smart. They can't hook them up to AI just yet. Do you think they'll merge those two computers together
Well, we
to
talked,
be one?
Charles, you
Yes.
mentioned it yesterday. And
Yeah,
yes,
I know.
yes, I do. I do think that. I think they would do whatever it takes in order to exert control over humanity and to manipulate the entire world. Yes, I do. I don't put anything past the Neanderthal mindset at all. Absolutely, positively nothing.
Thank you.
Thank you. This is maybe a potpourri of some of the things that has taken place that we've talked about, and these are probably addendums to it. But I want to see first, before we talk about some of those things, if there are questions or comments in regards to the Akashic consciousness that these efforts are being put forth to create the effort to become God itself, to create these mechanisms for them to be seen as God. Are there any questions or comments or additions to any of what we have said and what we are facing?
I have a quick question.
Yes.
Wasn't Jesus enough? Question mark.
Jesus was never meant for the upscale white folks. Jesus was meant for us as a people and poor white people. Jesus was introduced as a mechanism of control. And if you do the research, you find that this whole concept of Jesus started with a Greek pharaoh, and we mentioned it several times. And that Greek pharaoh Ptolemy had added to his name Soter, which means savior. And as the Catholic conferences met, it began to morph into something that was antithetical to the Memphite priesthood, and the Memphite priesthood challenged it. at some of these conferences, and there was a debate during the period of what was it called, the schism, Acacian schism. During that period, the debate was: is this deliverer or the Savior is a spiritual entity or a spiritual concept, or was it physical? And the Memphite priesthood said, no, this entity is not physical, spiritual. However, the Catholics and the Greek Orthodox, who joined with the Catholics, forced the hand of the Memphite priesthood, and it ended up with this man called Jesus and this woman, Mary, replacing Isis. And if you read about the schism, all these things are included in there. And the results of that was Jesus and being offered as the Savior. And as society moved forward, you will see that with each translation of the Bible, there were adjustments made. And the adjustments that were made to fit the times in order to keep people subjected to Christianity itself. And when you say Jesus, let's think about this. Jesus was considered to be a Jew. Were we not taught that?
Yes.
That Jesus is a Jew? Well, that is ludicrous when you really think about it. Why so? Because Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob were Hebrews. And Judah was one of the tribes of Israel. And Judah was a Hebrew. So how is it that Jesus, being a descendant of Judah, the Hebrew, how is it that he ended up being a Jew? How could that be possible? That he's not a Hebrew, he's a Jew. First of all, if you look at the word Jew as it is written in the scriptures, and you go back to the original text, you will never find Jew. You will only find Judah. So that speaks volumes within itself, which means that a group of people called Jews never existed, ever. A made-up term. And the made-up term is a term that the made-up term Jew or descriptor Jew is a word that gives religious cover to Eastern Europeans coupled with the European sect that was living in southern Turkey, what is now southern Turkey. So it gives them religious cover so that they can do what they do best. And that is the same thing that gypsies do. But they were more proficient at doing it than the gypsies were. And that is controlling economies. Rothschild, when the Rothschilds began to move around the world and move the family out of Germany into France, into England, to this country, they began changing their names. And at the onset, the patriarch of the family made a statement. And that patriarch said, they asked him, they meaning a group of people who were querying him about his finances and his power. They asked him, how was he going to control the world? And he said, the response was, if I control the world's economies, I don't care who is the leader of that country. Meaning that it doesn't matter who president is, prime minister. If I can control the economy, I control everything. That's what he was saying. And surely, when we look at Israel, it does control this economy. When we look at Israel, the reason that Hitler went after them is because of usury. They had wrecked the economy. So this whole idea of Jew is a covering. And now the word Jew, anything you say about a Jew, now you're anti-Semitic, even when you were telling the truth about them. So was Jesus enough? Enough for what? Yes, Jesus was enough to manipulate us as a people. However, the manipulation did not work totally in the way that the expectation was, because the usage of Jesus and the Hebrew plight was applied to the early civil rights movement, and that's what brought people together, meaning that the adherence to what we were told about Jesus brought together the people who believed in it, the churches. There was an amalgamation of entities from all over this country that rallied behind those preachers who talked to them about wrote Moses crossing the Red Sea and talked to them about Jesus being the Savior. All of these things were used differently and they were applied differently than the expectation was by those who used them as methods of manipulation and control. Myra, does that help you?
It does. I guess what I was also just trying to ask is, when you look at greed, let's say they are successful with AI. I'm not saying that they are, but I'm like, what is enough?
When it comes to greed, there is no such thing as enough. Ever. Audrey?
Understood.
Does that, Meryl, go ahead.
Oh, understood. Thank you.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Audrey?
I never really thought about what you saying in terms of Jesus not being a Jew. But in today's terms, he would be more either Palestinian or Lebanese, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is not related at all to anybody of Northern or Eastern European ancestry. So yeah, now it makes sense why they will not. It's illegal to do your ancestry in Israel because they are not related to that area.
And
They have no ancestry in that area. None. So yeah, you're right. Jesus was not a quote unquote Jew.
Right.
He was either Palestinian or Lebanese by today's standards, which is completely unrelated to Yiddish or whatever.
Right. Well, you just had his origin in Germany.
And Poland, yeah.
Yeah.
Man, I'm just amazed to just have that realization.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Because I want to add an addendum to that in a moment. This is more to this about Jews, Muslims, Christians. Ron, did you have something to say?
I'm still thinking. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
When we look at this, what do we see? We see this being termed or deemed to be the three major religions: Islam, Judaism, and Christianity. Here we are. We live in a village. And in this village, we are adherents to the Orishas, which are the gods in Nigeria. And please let me back up for a moment and put a pin in that for a second. I am very hesitant about using the word Nigeria because of its origin. This is not an origin. This is not a name that originated on the continent for Cabelon. It came from one of the wives of one of the governors who was in that landmass, and she never went to the continent. However, she solicited them to use the name Nigeria, which is the nigger area, which is actually slanderous. It was never meant in a meaningful or a righteous way. So, let me go back to where I was. If a Christian comes into our village and we are worship or we submissive to the Orishas, and this is a totally different spirit. This is a spiritual belief system, and this is what we are accustomed to. We've been doing this for hundreds of thousands of years, and in the village walks this Christian, and we welcome the Christian into the village. And the Christian begins to speak to people who are in power in the community, and they get nowhere. So they begin to speak to children, and they begin to speak to people who they feel or sense are gullible. And they begin to tell them about Christianity. And they get a handful of people who convert to Christianity. And the next thing that happens is they begin to use these people to agitate and to convince other people that unless you convert to Christianity, you're going to die and go to hell. And before you know it, the villagers are challenging the priesthood. And now the priesthood is weakened by this missionary. And those who refuse to convert are pressured to do it, or now the guns have come out and they are forced to convert to Christianity. If they don't, they are going to be subjected to violence and mayhem and rapes. So what happened with this? You let one Christian into your village, and now your village is totally Christian, under the control of the businesses that's going to come in there and take your resources. The same thing happens with Islam. These are not people of a Cabelonian descent. These are Asians who intermingle with Europeans. And when they begun to move into Northern Africa, yes, there are some of them who look like us because they raped our women. And they raped enough of us in order for that to be a residual presence of us with them to this day. They do the same thing that Christians did. However, Judaism doesn't do that. Judaism doesn't go in and force you to convert because that is not their goal. The goal is not to get you to believe in a God that they don't believe in. The goal is to make you a subject to them by controlling your resources and to present a face of power to you that has no boundaries when it comes to destruction, when it comes to torturing human beings. To this day, the only country on earth who legalized torture is Israel. Now, do other countries torture? Yes, they do. They do, but they make an effort to hide it, but it's torture, it's torture. But think about this. You have legalized torture. What does that make you? They're not trying to convert you to Judaism. They are forcing you to be their slaves. So, the forcing to be their slave is through economics. Enslavement, for the way that Christianity and Islam fostered it, is different. But slavery is slavery, and the idea of cannibalism is a Christian, but more importantly, is more of a Jewish thing, and has always been. So these concepts that were pushed to control us are the things that we preach every Sunday morning or submit to. Think about it. You have a name, and your name is Kwame Nkrumah, and this Muslim has come into your village, and in order for you to be in good standing with Allah, your name have to be Rashid or Rashid Muhammad. You have to take an Islam name, Muslim name. With Christianity, you have to take an English name, Peter, Paul, James, etc. So when you take someone's name, what you are doing is moving towards the erasure of their culture. And you're forcing them to embrace your culture, your religion. And the tenements of your religion has in it verses that you are taught that keeps you blind to what the true nature of their desires. And they take just enough of what you say you believe or what you believe to make you believe that they are superior in terms of their religious systems. And that's where we are right now. Think about this. Christianity, it doesn't matter whether you're Baptist, Methodist, Presbyterian, you're still a Catholic. Because all of that came from Catholicism. The seed of all of those denominations is Catholicism. And if you delve deep enough and go down the rabbit hole, you will find that Martin Luther did not nail those decrees on the wall for the purpose of challenging the priesthood of Catholicism because of the nefarious things that they were involved with. Martin Luther did that because Martin Luther was seeking power. He wanted to be the man as opposed to the Pope. He wanted to replace him. Now, having said that, Catholicism knows enough about the pineal gland to have a pine cone on the property of the Vatican they understand the power of it, but they don't know how to use it because it's not for them to access. The Jews do the same thing in terms of the pineal gland. Both of them cover their head, covering the light that exists in the pineal gland, even though they have a spark. And that's it. So what am I saying to you? The reason they cover I can't think of the name of them, but you know what I'm talking about. They cover the top of their head is because they don't want the light to escape. The rabbis and the Pope, and Muslims do the same thing. Just the headdress is just different. They don't want the light to escape, so they're capturing the light. Now, they probably don't realize the message that is sending. But the message that is sending is, this is my light. This is how I am guided, and I'm going to keep it. However, those of us who are Babylonians don't do that, because we understand that we are the light in that pineal gland, and there is a direct connection, for lack of a better word, on a continuous basis with the light of all lights. And there is a spiritual natal cord that is an umbilical cord that is always there, and nourishment, spiritual nourishment, is flowing through it. And that natal cord is there, umbilical cord is there to feed us. So we don't cut ourselves off from the light in a selfish way. This is my light, I'm going to keep it. However, we do have something as a reminder of our origin, and that is our navel. And that reminds us of the source of the nourishment that feeds us or fed us physically, nourishment, and as above, so as below. That spiritual umbilical cord is a continuous source of spiritual nourishment, and that is why it's so imperative that whether we can articulate it or not, we embrace the reality that the pineal gland, the light that's in that pineal gland, is who we are. And these physical bodies are an example of who we are. For example, I think I said it yesterday, the image of the body is the same image of those who came from the womb of the Babylonian woman. The likeness is something that they have not embraced. The likeness speaks to the way you function, and the functionality of the Babylonian is predicated on Ma'at, the principles of Ma'at, and the principles of Ma'at speaks to everything that brings peace and harmony to humanity. So even though the physical body is here and they are able to see the replication of it in themselves, we are now not on the precipice, but we are now in the process of bringing to visualization the manifestation of a nation, and not just America. When I say nation, I'm talking about globally. A global nation that adheres to the principles of Ma'at, that lives in harmony with loving kindness, as it was prior to colonialism and imperialism. So today, I say that the Muslims, the Christians, and the Jews, all those three in particular, are the ones who are making every effort to control humanity, more specifically, to control the inhabitants of the continent with all of the resources. And because Muslims are Asians and are the results of Asians and Europeans, their complexion is different. And because of the rape the Muslims did when they went into Northern Africa, they look different. So Israel, or the Jews and Christians, since 2000, have joined together to control the world, with Israel being at the top of the heap, seeking to be the sole controllers of humanity. And to do that, and to be successful at that, they believe that they have to destroy the Muslims. They have to destroy Islam. That's what they believe. And they don't concern themselves with us because they believe that through Christianity, they are able to continue their control over us and continue to manipulate everything in the place of a cable line. Any questions or comments? I know I've said a lot, but I wanted to see if there are comments, questions, or is this clear? Does it resonate? All of those things I'm asking.
It's clear to me, and it's very revealing, and it does resonate deeply.
Thank you. Anyone? Does it only resonate with Vermeil?
No, it resonates with me also.
I've told you when I ask you if it resonates, it's not rhetorical at all.
It resonates. Yeah.
Yes, it
It
makes
resonates.
much sense.
Thank you. Thank you. So here we are. Here we are. We are in the 250th year of the formation of a country of evilness. And 250 is 7. So this country has reached the apex of its existence. And when Ron was talking about I think it was you, Ron, who talked about the capsule.
Yes.
When you said that they want it to be open 250 years from now, if it's open at all, it will be sooner than that, because this country will not last 250 years. It will not be in existence 10 years from today, let alone 250. There will be the establishment of a nation. And the establishment of a nation comes as a result of the destruction of the country. And Mara says, or raises the question, what is enough? When it comes to the enslavers, There is never enough. Capitalism came into existence because of our enslavement. There is never enough. However, when it comes to the rulership or the governance of the Acabelonian / the African, there's always more than enough. And when it's more than enough, you see the acts of Mansa Musa. You see the acts of people in your community when we had a community, sharing with each other, bartering with each other. There is always more than enough. And when we cease saying that we have lack, we will accumulate more than enough. There is no lack. Lack exists because when we talk about what we don't have, we are actually freezing our ashe, meaning that the source of provision is being stalled or stopped by our words, because words have power, by the energy of the words that we speak. And there are those who believe that simply because I'm speaking in the affirmative, it doesn't change anything. It doesn't, because you don't believe it. That's why it doesn't manifest. We had this discussion. When you say, I'm good, the universe makes sure that I'm good. You will be. However, if tomorrow you say, man, I'm struggling, I don't know what I'm going to do. Well, the universe having you becomes something in your past, and what you just said becomes your future, and you begin to live in your future that moment. No different than we bought the concept of heaven from Christianity. And we bought the concept of hell from Christianity without thinking that heaven for this realm of the earth is peacefulness. And Europeans live the lives of a heavenly place in this earth. I'm not talking about the poor ones. I'm talking about those who run the world, those who are in politics, those who are in corporations. Their pleasures is their heaven. And we are looking for it when we leave this earth, because they told us that. While they are living in their heaven, we are living in their hell. Yet, we are told that if you don't comply to the principles of this Christianity that we have given you, that we have indoctrinated you with, you are going to die and go to hell. So what happens is we get so comfortable in this hell until we simply embrace it, because we have been told that in this life you're going to struggle. But in the by and by, you're going to be all right. Nobody believes that except us. No one believes that except us. We are saying globally, heaven and hell is in this earth, and we as a people have been in this earth without the benefit of knowing what it feels like to be in heaven for quite some time. The nurturing aspect for us is femininity. And we embraced the lie that men are supposed to be dominant. That's Islam, that's Judaism, that's Christianity, that's the other isms too. That masculinity is in charge of everything. We bought that lie. Hook, line, and sinker. We got it. And masculinity, if masculinity was the way that we are supposed to go in terms of embracing that spirituality is masculine, then why is it that it takes violence to keep masculinity in charge of everything? When, if we look at the history, when femininity was the guiding force, we will see a period of peace. But Islam and Christianity and Judaism has robbed us of the affection that we have for each other in terms of masculinity and femininity, has robbed us of the understanding of the functionality of each energy force, has told us that anyone who talks about the godship of femininity is seeking to destroy masculinity. And those males in our presence, not just on this phone, but I'm talking about in this earth, especially those who look like us, are living in an illusionary world that was given to them by Christianity and Islam in particular. And as a result of that, I run my house. I'm the breadwinner, you do what I say. That's crazy. The church, well, we don't recognize female preachers. Well, first of all, the church itself is an illusion. And the idea that men are in charge is an illusion. The reality to all of that comes into view when we embrace femininity, and then we begin to see a shift. And the shift that we see is one that is beneficial to all of humanity. I'm done for now. Questions, comments? Okay, I'm sure, does it resonate? I'm sure it does.
Yes.
It does.
Yes, it does.
Yes, it does.
Thank you.
It does.
Is there a real view of heaven though? Does that really exist?
Yes, but not in the way we think. Heaven, the word heaven, shemayim, is light, enlightenment. The idea of hell, as it is in the scriptures, is a place of repose, a place where you take the time to settle your mind and renew your understanding of who you are. If you look into Revelation, where it talks about death and hell should be cast into the lake of fire. The lake of fire is a place of purification.
Mm-hmm.
So all of the things, all of the concepts that has come between us and the reality of who we are cast into the lake of fire. And that means that our minds are renewed, our thoughts are purified. Are you following?
Yeah.
That's what this is talking about. The bill of goods that we have been sold about heaven and hell is a geographical location where we go shake hands with Jesus. And I don't believe that you can get to Jesus because there's so many people who died believing that Jesus go shake their hand before you die. So that makes no sense. And Peter go let you in the gates. That's crazy. That you were created in disobedience, so you are going to burn in hell for the rest of your life. You're going to suffer for the rest of your life. And the ones who create the suffering in the earth has built a heaven for themselves. That's what we've been taught. If Christianity was real, why was it necessary to print a slave Bible, removing every book that talks about us from it, and just simply allowing the submissive to remain, the enslaved, the justification of enslavement to remain in that Bible? I have one of those Bibles. Why is it? Here we are looking at the same Bible that we used in Christianity, and the ancestors has cleared our thoughts. Our heads are clear. Our minds are reprisonated. Our minds are being transformed as we speak. The transformation is coming because of the guidance of the ancestors. The light that we are is purifying our thoughts. And because it's purifying our thoughts, we are able to see the spiritual essence of what these scriptures meant when they were first written. This Bible, you have a question, Susan?
Oh, no, sorry.
Oh, that's okay. Okay. We have gotten to the place where we are able to understand what's written spiritually, even though it has been manipulated. The writings are devious with the desire to confuse and to divide. We are able to see past that. So what does that mean? The indoctrination that we have endured is being overridden by the technology of the activation of the melanin that guides us. Our ancestors are overriding the technology of deception, the indoctrination. And now we are clear-headed. And being clear-headed, we see things differently. Our perceptions are different. We see that we are or we have been charged with the responsibility of going beyond the physical creation of humans. We must understand, just like we created the humans, we are responsible for the renewal of the thoughts of the human. The mindset must be altered. And no one can do that except their Cabalonia. The only ones who are able to do this are the divine entities in this earth. Why? Because they came from that womb, and there is a spark in them of us, and to continue to instigate and to put into the macro the truth, not only of who we are, but the truth of the words that have been written and carried through generations, the truth of those things. We are able to do that. That's how the mindset is changed. You cannot change a mindset with Jesus. The reason they gave us Jesus is to take away our ancestors. We begun to see clearer when we embrace the reality, the power, the essence, and the presence of our ancestors. That is our deliverance. Our ancestors cannot change anything. They simply guide us to be the agents of change.
They are our AI.
Yes. No. I won't say AI, because AI is artificial intelligence. This is reality. They're not artificial.
So ancestral intelligence.
There you go. Okay. Ancestral intelligence. You should have said that in the beginning, man. Thank you. So anyway, are there any questions or comments?
Hi, this is Susan. Can you talk more about the practices that help us to elevate our consciousness? Forgive me if that's not the topic of the day, but maybe just a word.
No forgiveness necessary. Every topic is the topic of the day. What we are doing now is elevating to the place where we were supposed to remain. How are we doing that? By learning who we are, by embracing the reality of who we are. One of the most difficult things for people who look like us to do is to admit that they are God, that they are divine. When we look at the errors, the fallacy, not errors, the fallacy of Christianity and Islam, we began to see that the only thing that's true are the principles that were from the beginning. What am I saying? The spiritual essence of our understandings were in existence hundreds of thousands of years before there was ever Christianity or Islam. The holy book for Islam was not even accepted by Islam until the early 1900s. I think it was 1918. So we seek our understanding of the wisdom of the book, the Bible, from our ancestors. And what does it do? The understandings tells us that Jesus was not a man, but the concept of deliverance is real. The Bible tells us in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God, and the Word was with God. The Bible tells us that. But the ancestral guidance tells us that the Bible is talking about those who are descendants of Babylonians. And it can only be understood by those who are Babylonians. We would have never been able to understand it, to decipher the code, if we had not, as I said earlier, embraced ancestral guidance and, more importantly, embraced the reality of the womb of the cosmic mother. We, by embracing feminism, we have come full circle, for lack of a better term, in our understandings of the relationship between the womb and the penis, or the egg and the seed. And the story about Isis and Osiris is a story telling us that without the penis, Isis was able to birth a child, to be impregnated and birth a child. So it's telling us that when femininity was created, when it was brought into existence, it was impregnated with us already. And what happened? The cosmic mother produced us, or we came from the womb of that cosmic mother, and as a result of that, we are divine because we came from divinity. And we created in the form that we existed, and that is the flesh. And in creating that, femininity birthed all the races, what they call races, different people in the earth. So that in itself tells us we are the only flesh. We are the only ones who came directly from God, directly from the Creator, directly from the light of all lights. That's who we are. And those who came from us are humans. And it is incumbent upon us to show them what the experience is when you begin to return to your origin, meaning that the only way that you, child, can become divine is by embracing the mindset of the Babylonians. So the studying of the words rather, and the study of the history, these play a primary part in our elevation. The first thing is the desire to truly know who we are. The strongest thing that we have is desire itself. Susan, I don't know whether I talked in circles or whether they helped you.
Yes, it did help me. And I think what I got out of it, and you tell me if I'm wrong, was practices to study, to understand, and to really start to internalize the power that we have and who we really are. That's the constant practice, maybe. That's what I got out of it. I have a lot to learn.
Thank you. And that power, when we talk about internalizing, what we began to realize, because we talked about the internalizing power as well, But we got to the point where we were shown that we are power, that we are Mayat, that everything that we have talked about in embracing is who we are. We are that power. We are that light in the pineal gland. Protected, or not so much protected as he is using crystals.
Thank you.
Beg your pardon? Say again, please.
Yeah, she said thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm done.
Hey, Pastor, I want to thank you for giving us understanding of the history that some of us probably didn't know, some probably did know. But I just wanted to thank you for giving the part of our history and making it true to us.
Glad I could help. And Susan and the rest of you guys who raised these questions, we are most appreciative for your questions and grateful for your responses. So at this time, I suppose we will, okay, Ron, you do what you do.
You were doing fine. Now, awesome session. A lot of meditate on. So thank you very much, everyone. Thank you for your energy. Thank you for your questions, and hope you have a great day. Okay, look forward to tomorrow evening. Thank you.
Take care, family.
Thank you, everyone.
See you, family.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.